So the other day I had a really good chance to go out and visit the Long Island Brass Company and have a mouthpiece fitting. And while I was there, I found this very specific mouthpiece that works really well for me on trombone that apparently hasn't worked well for like anybody else on trombone, but it's been doing some really cool things for my playing and I love the sound of it. So this is going to be a quick review and comparison of the Long Island Brass 550E mouthpiece. Yeah. I have some other mouthpieces to compare behind me. We have the Long Island Brass Romero mouthpiece, the Laskey-Alessi 60 symphonic line, and the Doug Elliott G Cup 104 rim G shank mouthpiece that I've been using for the last few months. That was really great, and I still might use for some things. But let's hear how they stack up. First, I just like to play, like my other comparison videos, just some Bolero on this new mouthpiece. This has been a super fun mouthpiece to play on and get to know over the last few days. I find that one of the things I like the most about it is how it connects very seamlessly into the low range from the upper range. While I was having a really good time working with this Doug Elliott piece, and it's still a fantastic mouthpiece I might use for some chamber and specific solo playing. Sometimes when I went down into the low register, I felt the teensiest bit of tightness, and that I had to really open up my jaw to get the right sound. There's a lick in the meditation from Thais, originally for violin and piano, which I think kind of shows a lot of that. As you can see at the end, I kind of had to open and close my jaw a little bit to get the sound I wanted in the low register. And I don't want to have to think about that or always consciously remember because I just want the sound to flow as much as possible. When I play the same um, phrase kind of through those registers on this mouthpiece, I felt a lot more secure in the low range. I notice that my chin doesn't move as much and I'm not doing as much manipulation going from register to register. So while this has a really brilliant and light sound, I have noticed that the extra mass on this and the depth of this has definitely given it a much more dark sound and a what I'd consider to be kind of a creamy sound as well, which I've always liked in my playing. Um, what I've always strived for in my playing. I like the darker, more orchestral based tones for a lot of things. When I compare this mouthpiece, the 550E, to the Romero Long Island Brass mouthpiece, you can notice that there's a difference in kind of the tone and timbre and lightness of the sound, using the same phrase from meditation. nice and pretty and light sound also. And I think it could work really well in an orchestral setting or a setting where I'm kind of far away from people and I'm playing from like the back of a pit or a hall. But a lot of my playing ends up being closer to people in chamber and solo contexts. So one thing I like to listen a lot for is how much kind of tonguing sound is in each of these mouthpieces. Like how much air is escaping, how much tonguing am I hearing at a close range. Because once you get 30, 40 feet back, it's like you kind of just hear with whatever you hear. So when I do my rapid tonguing stuff, example on this Romero mouthpiece, it's nice, but sometimes I feel like I hear a little bit too much of the tongue and a little bit too much of the sound of production versus the tone itself. Um, Less signal to more noise than I might hear on this. And then when I go back to like the Doug Elliott mouthpiece, it has the clarity, but again, when I go down to that low thing, that opening up in the low register, I still feel like I'm missing just a touch of sound in that lower register that I really want to be accessing at all times. When it comes to like the extreme high register stuff, all these mouthpieces, I can get the sounds out on them. Like I can get up to the extreme high register on all of them. But I am noticing that the deepness of the cup here, and when I say deepness, I mean that on the inside, there's a slight, there's more volumetric depth in it. Like it recedes a little sooner than it does on the Romero mouthpiece, which leads to have an extra space for like the air and chops. I've always gravitated towards deeper euphonium style mouthpieces, so it makes sense that that's working for me. Um, when I play into the extreme upper high register on the Elliott, it gets a nice brilliant sound. But actually, when I get up to that very last note, like there's some instability and crackling inside the note, which, is normally pretty normal on trombone. When I switch over to the Romero mouthpiece, some of that disappears. And it's a nice change. It feels like there's more stability in that extreme high register. It's still a little hard to maintain, but I feel like I'm getting less crackling, even if there's a little bit of instability. And finally, when I play the euphonium like style deeper cup mouthpiece, I feel like I end up having the most stability in that extreme high range. Yeah, so as I'm getting used to it, I'm finding that those extreme high notes are just kind of locking in a slightly different way. Now, the trade-off is that with the extra mass, I get a little tired a little quicker on that extreme high range stuff. Like if I'm doing an Amy Beach romance piece, for example, which is a transcription that I do of a violin piece, the first line can get a little tiring when I go up to this high G sharp. like the sound. What I was playing on it before was also a nice sound and kind of brilliant. So it had a nice, brilliant sound on the Elliott Mouthpiece, which I still really like. But it wasn't getting the same centering. Although it costs more to center in that really high range, it centers even more when I get there. And the Romero piece was somewhere in the middle of them. It has, again, a really, really nice characteristic in the high range. But sometimes the darkness of sound, the depth of sound, and the roundness of sound is something that I was just missing a little bit and getting maybe a little bit too much air and tongue in this specific model for me. So, when it's a choice between the three of these, I definitely am gravitating more towards this mouthpiece. Now, for orchestral music, I was having an interesting experience kind of going back and forth with this Laskey-Alessi 60 mouthpiece and the Doug Elliott mouthpiece. So I'd like to compare the three of those. The new Long Island brass mouthpiece, the Elliott, and the Alessi on just the opening of the David. Because the Elliott, while being a great mouthpiece, wasn't quite feeling like the orchestral audition mouthpiece I was looking for. Again, brilliant articulations, really clean sound, but maybe I wanted more body and more depth through the sound and through the connections. And the Alessi Laskey was feeling more like home for an orchestral style trombone mouthpiece for a while. So that was definitely feeling more like the approach that I want to have when I do orchestral music, and that was great. And when I had the chance to go out to Long Island Brass and try out this 550E mouthpiece, it was feeling even more towards the ideals that sometimes I hear in my own head. Which to me feels like super locked in, and it feels really great to play in that style with that mouthpiece. And finally, as one more kind of comparison, I think I'd just like to do a little bit of kind of the, right after the fermata and tuba Mirum for a few measures. And again, I'm going to compare them first on the Elliott mouthpiece. light sound again, but I was missing just a little bit of the creaminess and transitions between notes that are more orchestrally based. And then on the Laskey-Alessi 60, which feels a lot closer to what I'm looking for when I want to play in that style. And then for comparison's sake, I'd like to play the Romero Long Island Brass Mouthpiece, the same excerpt. One thing I like about this mouthpiece is it feels super easy to play. Like I don't have to think about notes or production or shifts or anything else. And I feel the same way on this other Long Island Brass, the 550E that I've been working with, that it's just super easy to play. My brain turns off when it comes to like the trombone side of things when I play this. And kind of that feeling of just being able to blow down the music and just blow through a phrase feels really great to me. So this mouthpiece I'm going to be sticking with for a while. I also have a 675 Chimera mouthpiece coming in from Long Island Brass, which does like the huge orchestral thing in ways that like I didn't know I could do yet, even after playing on like some Laskey-Alessi 1Ds and stuff like that. That ease of playing transfers over to the Chimera mouthpiece as well. So I'm really happy to say that I'm now an artist with Long Island Brass for their mouthpieces, and that I am super happy with this mouthpiece. It's giving me a nice, dark, and even sound that goes easily through the registers, and it just feels like it just plays. Like it has the most direct connection between my thought and what comes out of the bell, just getting all of this kind of like out of the way as much as possible. All right, so that's my quick review. Thanks so much for listening. Check out librass.com if you want to find out more about these mouthpieces. Feel free to leave a comment or anything else if you have any questions, or reach out. Thanks for listening.